What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel. Check out the content. And with that being said, man, I want to speak about LeBron James and what's going on and with the Lakers. Right, a lot of people are complaining about what LeBron James is doing, and and some of the antics and stuff like that. His lack of defense, and the whole situation with JJ Redick and his son getting, also being drafted. But, I really blame the Lakers for this situation and I blame the league, right? Because now the Lakers and the league, well, let's just think about the league, right? The league has always manufactured and tried to like control and produce certain narratives for the NBA. Even when it came to the situation with Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, right? You had those two guys. One was on the East Coast, one was on the West Coast. Those two different styles. So the league pumped that up, right? And they capitalized on it. It helped them to build the league, and it generated some excitement, right? And some competition, East Coast, West Coast, the flashy style of basketball versus the slow it down, grind it out pace that you got with the Celtics. And so that was cool. The league capitalized on that and it created a whole lot of excitement. Then you had the rivalries between like Chicago and Detroit, or the rivalries between LA and it was LA and again Boston, right? Or it was Boston and Detroit, or Boston and Philadelphia, those rivalries. But all of that, it was always, in my opinion, even looking back, it was always kind of orchestrated. They made sure that certain teams got certain players in order for them to be competitive. And then we could, this rivalry can go at each other. And so that was that. But now, in this era of player empowerment, it's more so the players who were orchestrating it. Like LeBron James will move to a situation that benefited him. Who was it? And Kevin Durant did the same thing. Like you seen superstars starting to move, they were starting to move to situations that benefited them, right? So I think that we as fans, maybe we can't really complain about what we see LeBron James doing because he's only doing what the league did, right? And so it looks different to us when when he's doing the same thing that the league did. But you got to think the difference between LeBron James orchestrating, and trying to set things up in his behalf, and the difference between the lake, when the league do it, is at least when the players, when the league did it, the players still upheld their end of the bargain. Right. And by that, I mean, you could always count on, no matter what franchise ball player you was talking about. And number one, the league didn't really move franchise ball players. The league moved players, you know, um, not until probably like the end of their career or later on in their career, for the most part. I know that the Lakers did get Kareem from Milwaukee, you know, so, and that I don't know, that might have been orchestrated. I don't know. I don't even remember that. I was too young, or maybe not even. I was too young to even remember that situation was. But the Lakers have always been an organization that either bought in superstars and stuff like that. So they orchestrated that kind of stuff. But now you have situations where players are doing it. And like I was saying, when you have players orchestrating it, it looks a lot different, right? Because it don't challenge the players to become the best basketball players that they can. And by that I mean, if you have a franchise ball player, just take like, if you could take any franchise ball player like Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas spent his whole career with the Detroit Pistons, right? And so the league wasn't going to move Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah Thomas had to figure out a way in Detroit to get past Boston, and he had to figure out a way to beat LA, like once he got past Boston. And Isaiah did that. So what that did for the Detroit, not just for Detroit fans, but for basketball fans, it created a situation where you got to watch a guy overcome his disappointments, and a guy who kept on, he kept on trying until he got over the hump. Larry Bird broke Isaiah Thomas' heart, before he got over the hump. And a lot of other teams too beat, but that just it just makes for more drama. And you had a fan base who's, the fan base is like, oh man, can the Detroit Pistons do it? Can Isaiah Thomas get his team over the hump? And when he get his team over the hump, man, then that's just good for basketball. And it's the same thing for the Lakers, right? At one point in time, everybody was calling Magic Johnson Tragic Johnson because in certain situations, Magic, he didn't come through the way the team wanted him to. And, so they was calling him Tragic Johnson. And then when he got over the hump, and then they won some championships, now he's back to being Magic Johnson, and they built that up. Larry Bird, again, Larry Bird was in the same situation. Larry Bird, lost to Magic Johnson in the championships. They came back and beat him. It just made for more drama. And everybody, all these different fan bases around the league had their superstar ball players in their hometowns that they can really follow and watch these guys persevere. And I take what's the other guy? Not Kareem, Dr. J, Julius Erving, right? Julius Erving was getting up in years when he was with the Philadelphia 76ers. Remember, Julius he came over from the ABA. I think in the ABA, I think he had won already. He had won one or two or three championships in the ABA, right? So it wasn't like he wasn't a championship ball player, but he didn't have an NBA. It took him a while to get an NBA championship. So when he got to the point where he could win an NBA championship, which was nearing the end of his career, that was good for Philadelphia. That was good for basketball, man. I mean, it was just high drama, man. Then like that play when Dr. J he stole the ball, went down and dunked on Michael Cooper, like that was high drama. And they play that dunk now. I don't know how many years ago that probably had to be like almost like 40 years ago, but they still play that, man. I remember being like probably like a kid watching that still, watching it on a small black and white TV, man. That was when Dr. J stole that ball and dunked it, man. That was iconic, right? But those are the kind of moments because number one, it's already it's high stakes. The game was already high stakes. That was you talking about championship basketball, so it was already high stakes. And then to make a play like that, you try to manufacture that kind of stuff with this new generation, man. It just don't come off the same way, because there is not that emotional attachment between the fans. The fans want it, that emotional buildup that come with, like guys just coming through in clutch moments after, they had fans who doubted them, fans who backed them all the way, man, you can manufacture that to a certain extent, but I think when players do it, it just make a player kind of like not reach his full potential because what he do is whatever the weakness is in that player, he will go and team up with somebody who 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 uh who accounts for that weakness. Like if you got a franchise player like LeBron James who don't have a low post game, he don't have to work on his low post game and get better. And so he can just go team up with somebody who has a low post game. Or if he don't have a mid-range shot, then he don't have to, have to develop his mid-range shot. And so what that does is like fans notice stuff like that. Fans will be like, all right, well, our guy's getting better. You can see the improvement on him. Just like fans see that Anthony Edwards for the Minnesota Timberwolves, he's making more of a concerted effort to shoot, to develop his mid-range. After he said last year, like, man, I'm gonna shoot threes. I don't care nothing about the mid-range game, but he see that it's needed. he see the teams that are having success, they utilize that mid-range. And so now he's doing it. And fans notice that. They notice he's getting better, and they know that he's putting everything he have into that, which make the fans more loyal and more dedicated to these superstar ball players. But when you move around from team to team, and I think that, like I said, the league promoted this, man. These guys moving from team to team and not really getting better, and their fan base is fractured. So you don't have the loyalty from the players to the fan base and from the fan base to the players, which the relationship is different. Even though you didn't have to live in Detroit to appreciate what Isaiah Thomas did in Detroit. You didn't have to live in Boston to appreciate what Larry Bird did, in Boston, or you didn't have to live in LA, to appreciate Magic. Although those fan bases was like very loyal and dedicated, but as a basketball fan overall, man, you just appreciate these guys just persevering and getting over the hump. And so that some of that just gets missed. And it's not LeBron James. It's not all LeBron James' fault. I think it's the league fault for allowing these players to put them in a position where they didn't have to really improve their games, and just allowing them to move freely about the league when now we see the ramifications of that, guys just going to other teams and not really putting in the work. So that's my take on it. It's the league fault, like I said, that you don't get the quality of play from these ball players that you used to. I think it's getting back to that. You starting to have guys, um, stick with these teams longer because they don't want, especially franchise ball players. So I think it's getting back to that. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, I'm going to check you all out in the next video. Peace.